Drumosophy is brought to you in part by making mistakes, because apologies should be earned. And also by upside down bar stools. Has the same drunk requested Sweet Home Alabama one too many times? But you're obviously playing a jazz gig? Kapoosh! Upside down bar stools. Is the same group of girls that snuck up on stage while you were on break to try to play your instruments now screaming requests at your singer while your singer is in the middle of a song? Kapoosh! Upside down bar stools. Why tell them to go shove it when they can sit on it? Upside down bar stools. And by my mother, because I'm the best mistake that she's ever made, and she's only had to apologize for me once. Specifically that time I was in kindergarten and my friend flipped me off, and I didn't know what it meant, so I lifted my middle finger back, but the teacher only saw me. So she got to come to school and apologize for me being a brat. Thanks, Brian. Mothers. Let's talk about perspective. If you've been on the internet for any amount of time, you've probably seen those diagrams that show two circles. One might be a different color than the other, and then the question will be, which circle is larger? Or two shapes running along converging lines, and each shape is in a different position with the converging lines, and it'll ask which shape is larger. Or, you know, what color is this dress? Tons and tons of tricks of perception that hopefully should make you question the things that you think and how you look at reality. We all sometimes get so caught up in the way that we think in our own opinions and our own perspectives that we can lose sight of anything that matters. And we can just give up on any sense of objectivity. The way that we view the world is everything, and the way that we view ourselves is equally important. Having good self-esteem, being able to put events in your life in their proper perspective, allows you to direct your energy in ways that can be more productive instead of spinning your wheels on things that don't matter. But what if our perspective on ourselves, our perception of ourselves is skewed? Weird things can happen. And I'm talking about things that go a little bit beyond self-esteem issues. I'm talking about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is an interesting thing. It's not just low self-esteem, but it's a mindset that doesn't allow us to own our achievements. It doesn't allow us to feel like we belong in the positions that we've earned. It doesn't allow us to accept compliments. It doesn't allow us to sometimes take the chances that we need to take in our lives to move forward because we feel like we're fakes. And that feeling like you're fake, feeling like you don't know as much as other people, that's something that is very, very common. Across the animal kingdom, we seem to share an innate sense for fairness. We want things that are earned. We look down on people that get things that we don't think they deserve, or if they've been misbehaving, they don't somehow get the punishment we feel like they deserve. We all know the saying, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Sometimes things that good people deserve don't happen to them. Sometimes bad people make it out without punishment. Sometimes we don't get what we deserve. And when we feel like we don't deserve what we get, even if the reality is we've earned it. Part of a healthy life, in my opinion, is to be able to learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes, and celebrate your successes. But with imposter syndrome, it's heavily weighted to one side. You're looking at the negative without ever really taking ownership for the things that you accomplish. The ability to create art, the ability to strive for something, the ability to work really, really hard for it and then to get it is something that is one of life's pleasures. Think back to Saturday morning cartoons. Usually there's some kid at some point in a classroom setting and they have to give a speech in front of their class. They go to their teacher and ask for advice because, like most of us, confronted with the task of public speaking, become horrified. And the teacher gives the advice that we've all probably heard once in our life if we've asked for advice about public speaking. That is, picture the audience naked. And that became such a cliche. You see this if you watched a lot of cartoons or a lot of sitcoms. You saw this over and over and over again. I think the moral of that story was we're the same, right? Everybody has to put on their pants one leg at a time. There's another cliche for you. And the nakedness of a crowd, them being exposed to you as much as you are to them, is a very empowering feeling. You see not yourself as a part, but you understand that they're human beings like you. The key to clawing out of the hole of the imposter syndrome is sort of similar. You have to talk about it, and you have to talk about it to people that will listen. You have to talk about it with people often, because the first time you hear, "Oh man, I think that all the time," as casual as that sounds, you're gonna write it off, usually. But if you keep hearing it over and over and over again, yes, I have that thought sometimes. Well, how do you deal with it? Whatever the answer is, everybody's answer is different, but that's not the point. The point is that everyone goes through low self-esteem, self-doubt, and more severely, imposter syndrome. And that imposter syndrome has probably been more or less crippling to some degree at some point in their life. That has either stopped them or almost stopped them from taking some sort of step or risk. And that's a story we all have. I'm encouraged and discouraged in equal measure about the state of the internet, specifically social media, because we all see it. We all see everyone's edited perfection, and none of this is new information to you guys. You know that people always want to present their best selves. Unfortunately, we tend to forget that's no one's best self. The things that we portray on social media don't really exist. Even in this video, as much as I tried to convey a sense of connection by talking directly into the microphone, by trying to emote with my voice, by trying to come across as sincere and as thoughtful as much as I can, this is the 4th time I've cut this video. The first time sucked. I stumbled over my words a lot. I didn't really know what I wanted to say. I hated the way it looked, so I scrapped it. The second time I was actually comfortable with it and sat down to edit it, and then I lost track of that memory card, and then I was shooting other stuff and reformatted by mistake right over all of my work. This last time, a microphone cut out and just stopped recording. So all of my voice, all of the clean audio of my voice was gone. So, as much as I like to say, yes, so this is candid as much as it can be. I mean, I'm not reading a script. This is definitely, I have more in my head and I have more of an idea of what I want to say, but I'm not reading a script. I said that already. This has been more or less rehearsed, and there can only be a certain amount of authenticity through rehearsal. Like these aren't feelings that I'm feeling for the first time. This isn't even how I feel right now. I feel more frustrated that I waited again so long to do this, and that I made so many rookie technical errors in order to get this out. but here we are. My hope is that with being upfront about this, I can contribute to authenticity and honesty about the things that we go through, whether or not you're trying to be an artist or a content creator online, or if you're just casually perusing the internet for entertainment. There's good to be had in the midst of shallow, self-serving garbage. But we have to be more aware of what we're putting out there, because someone is going to look at you and think, man, that looks good. Are you going to be encouraging and say, hey, you can do this too? Or are you going to try to put forward your best self as this unobtainable, hey, look at me thing? Don't you wish you were me? And I know a lot of you people aren't like that, but you also know the people that I'm talking about. And so with communication and openness and just a little bit of your time, we can stop the spread of imposter syndrome and start the spread of being honest with ourselves, being encouraging, and helping each other to see that we are more connected than ever. And there's no reason to feel inadequate or feel alone. There's a friend of mine by the name of Matt Sickles, and he always tells me that in his eyes, if he can't do something right now, it's just a matter of time. That's a phenomenal thing, because we're human beings, and human beings are incredibly capable, no matter where they are in the intelligence spectrum, wherever they are in the physical ability spectrum, wherever they are in all of these measures of human competence. We're all capable, given the proper amount of time, attention to detail, guidance, and determination. We are capable of amazing things, each and every one of us. So if there's something that you feel like you can't do or can never do, and you've given up on it, don't. You just haven't waited long enough yet. It's out there somewhere in the fourth dimension of space-time. It's just, you have to keep at it. Most of the masters, most of the coaches, most of the inspirational, motivational speakers, the one thing that they say is to not quit. Don't quit. Quitting is the absolute best thing to do if you're trying to ensure that your goals are never met. So what does perspective have to do with rhythm? It's funny you should ask. So because this is a Drumosophy video, I need to teach you something about rhythm. And what I want to share, I don't know why that was on right then, but what I want to share is how I came into odd rhythms. And that is by way of metric modulation. Let me try to explain what metric modulation is. So metric modulation is, in layman's terms, when you pretend to be in a note rate that you're not. Let's take a groove. I can't beatbox to save my life. So what I will do is, well, no, I'll try. So here's the groove. Right? And so right? So what did the metronome sound like? I'm really Southern. I'm not sure when that happened, but this is who I am now. The metronome, turn, thank you. So the metronome here, which is, I'm using polynome, because, well, it's not product placement because I'm not getting paid. So I use polynomial here, and what I do is I think about triplets. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now my triplet becomes my eighth note. That takes practice, right? But what'll happen is you'll start to hear the metronome differently, almost like the metronome is revolving around you, right? And so it becomes, started on the wrong beat there. I lost it. That happens sometimes when I'm not paying attention. One. But I'm in triplets, right? And so even when I phrase stuff that I would normally phrase in more of a duple feel, one, two, three, four, right? Oh my gosh. So bear with me. So I'm not trying to teach you guys how to play all the phrases so that I sing. I want to instill something about perspective. Whenever I listen to a metronome, or whenever I'm listening to a pulse, let's ignore the fact that it's giving me numbers and just listen to it for a second. It's sort of a society-based, like a cultural thing that tells us that those are quarter notes and it's counting to 4 because that's what we're used to hearing. But if I start doing something like this, or I did the same thing twice. Hold on one second. I'll get my shit together, I promise. So here is 7/4, right? What's important is the relationship. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm technically playing in septuplets. That. But if I keep this chain, this false quarter chain, and as long as I maintain the correct relationship with the metronome, that is, from my perspective, the metronome being on 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4E and a 5E and a 6E and a 7E. I'm not thinking about septuplets. I'm really thinking about 7/4. And that's sort of cheating until you start to understand where the metronome actually is. And then you start really feeling that pulse. And so you're thinking, let's see. As of February 2019, I am 34 years old. I started playing drums when I was 16. I feel like I've always kind of known how to do this. I grew up in church. I grew up sitting next to my father while he played in the band, and I watched the drummer play. Years and years of that showed me how to keep a beat. I mean, I watched that from the age of 4 all the way up to when I started playing drums in church at the age of 17. And so exposure sort of got me into the game. But all these young kids were much more mature than me on the instrument, much further along, knew how to do all these fancy rolls with these bass drum doubles and all this stuff, knew what rudiments were. And so I felt like I was fighting tooth and nail just to keep up, just to learn every ounce of information that I could, so that I could not be the worst one at the church, not so that I could be someone that someone wanted to be in a band with. Fast forward 18 years later, I play a lot. I play in a bunch of bands with people that I respect and admire, and I do things on the drums, not perfectly, but the truth is, I do things on drums that I never thought I would be able to do. And some things, even 5 years ago, I didn't really think were possible. And it's just because I ask all the questions whenever I'm playing drums, whenever I'm thinking about drums. What if you do that? What if you displace this? It's, to me, the drums is an answer to my own curiosity. Every time that I ask a question, the drums, music, answers it in some way. And that feedback loop inspires me to keep pushing, to keep asking questions. I never feel low self-esteem whenever I am jacked into the source of my inspiration, which is, again, curiosity. I feel like I am at my most healthy with this instrument when I feel like a child and I am just full of wonder when I am playing, when I am discovering different things. The interesting thing, all children are different, but usually the stereotype, the things that we like about our ideas of children, our perception, if you will, of children, is that they are these free, untainted vessels of questions and exploration. They don't have time for things like for low self-esteem, because there's something about the world that gives that to us. There's something about the world that says this is what you need to be. And you get a child at a certain frame of development, they don't have that yet. And so that's my place. That's my source. Find what your source is. Find what makes you happy about the art and bask in that. I promise you, if you can find that and tap into it, things like low self-esteem, self-doubt, there won't be any room for it. That being said, we're all human and we all have really, really bad days. It rains sometimes. Who knew? The thing that gets me through, and it's sometimes just as simple as this: I know this feeling. I've been here before. If I keep going, I'll find that place again and get better because I found it the last time. That seems overly simplistic. I've never had to deal with any type of mental illness in my life. That's just me. I consider myself extremely lucky. If you aren't that lucky and you haven't, I urge you to reach out. Reach out to a mental health professional, reach out to family and friends, and someone cares about you. And I really hope that you find the help that you need. That's about all I can say about that because I'm not qualified. I love you and I wish you the best.